Hey, what's up, guys? It's Annette. This is Tatum Talk, and we're going to talk it out. We're going to talk about getting an attorney. So when you first find out that you have a situation, that's one of the first things you need to do is figure out getting an attorney. Actually, hiring an attorney is going to be super expensive in a federal case. The best thing is to get an appointed attorney. Now, let me explain. The difference is when you have a state case, you don't want an appointed attorney because that's more than likely going to be legal aid, a person that's inexperienced and who has so much caseload, they don't really even have time to spend on your situation at all. So that's not what you want. You want a paid attorney in a state case. But in a federal case, it's different because there's sentencing guidelines, which I'll get into in a little bit. But basically, the judge is going to follow these guidelines anyway. Mostly everyone who has paid for a paid lawyer has realized after that they could have gotten the same result with an appointed attorney. And usually an appointed attorney in a federal case is probably someone with his or her own practice. These attorneys are very experienced. They have lots of rapport in the courts. They're there a lot. And you basically will be okay with an appointed attorney in a federal case. So that's really what you want anyway, because it's not going to cost you anything. But you have to prove that you can afford, that you cannot afford your own attorney in order to get the appointed attorney. However, more than likely in a federal case, they're going to take everything you have anyway. So you probably won't have any assets. You know, they'll probably seize everything that you do have. So, it's a catch. Yeah, it's going to be horrible to get things seized away from you. But if you were going to spend that money, you would have to sell things in order to pay this attorney anyway. That's how expensive it's going to be. But you really just want to get the appointed attorney. So you want to be broke. You want to be indigent. You want to not be able to afford your own attorney. And you want to get appointed, this court-appointed attorney. They're going to do a financial breakdown on you anyway. They're going to pull your credit report. You know, they're going to go into your bank account. They're going to figure out, do you have money or not? It's not just off of your word. It's not off of what you say. They have a whole department that's going to figure out whether you are really indigent or you're not. Let's go over some questions that if you were to hire your own attorney, how you would go about it, right? I used to work in a criminal law firm. I worked in several different types of law firms, actually. I worked in insurance defense, criminal, personal injury, IP, which is intellectual property. I don't know, at least 5 other areas of law. So basically, I've been around attorneys a lot. I can tell you they are very expensive. The lawyer that you're going to look for, this is what happens. And there's different lawyers. You know, within a firm, you have associates, and then you have partners. Partner is going to charge more. His hourly rate could be $600 an hour. A partner's hourly rate might be like $250, $275. It varies from state to state. So you want to get a lawyer, though, that is a federal attorney, right? So he specializes in federal criminal law. That doesn't do civil litigation. He doesn't do state criminal charges. He only does federal criminal cases. That's what you want. All right. You want somebody that's well versed in the courthouse. He's familiar. He goes to court frequently, like every week or a couple times a month. He has rapport with the judges. He knows them. So this way, whatever judge you happen to get appointed, he can tell you some background about this judge. Maybe he's even been before this judge before. Other attorneys, maybe the prosecutor, he might know or have worked with in the past. You definitely have to get an attorney from the area that you have the charge, not where you live, because a lot of federal cases can take you to other states, right? Unbeknownst to you. Depends on the charge. Like me, I had conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Now I live in New York, but the charge was from Maryland. Now I was confused because I had been to Maryland like way long ago, 20 years probably prior. But other than that, not really some place that I went to. So I'm like, how do I get a charge in a state that, that I wasn't even in? And how are they coming from someplace else into New York talking about, oh, you have this charge in this other jurisdiction? It was all just very confusing. But that is commonplace. You know what I mean? They do that. So you could have a charge clear across the country. I know plenty of people that had those situations. When I was incarcerated, there were people from different areas of the country in one place. And you may not understand that right now, but that happens. So you need an attorney there where you will be going to court at. That attorney has to be local, and he has to be specialized in federal criminal law. So that's another reason why it's kind of good to get appointed an attorney, because you will be appointed someone who works with the court on a regular basis. They've been entered into this database, and the court is familiar with them. They call them up and they say, hey, we have a case. And it's up to them whether or not they have time in their roster to take on another case. And that's how it typically happens. But if you were to hire an attorney, these are some questions that you could ask. How often do you appear in federal court? When was the last time you were in federal court on a case? Have you had a trial? What was the outcome? How many sentencing hearings have you been to? That's important. Well, what kind of cases have you tried? That's more important. Have you tried a case that has a charge like mine? And if so, what was the outcome? Now, past outcomes doesn't necessarily guarantee a present one or a future outcome to be the same. Everybody's case is different, but it just gives you some idea. You want to speak to him and kind of gauge his experience level. What kind of successful outcomes have you had? And success could mean different things. So for example, it could mean a reduction of charges. You're probably not gonna, if you have a federal case, trust, they have enough information to know that you were involved some type of way. So the chances of the case getting thrown out is probably 0 to none. But a reduction of your offense level, that's highly likely. And by offense level, again, I'm referring to the sentencing guidelines. So I'll show you the chart. You need to be very familiar with this chart. The offense level is on the left-hand side column. It's the severity level of your charge. And then across the top is the category level, which is your prior criminal cases, your prior criminal history. So basically, and then they kind of align and they meet someplace in the middle. So it's your offense level, and then it's the categories. The categories across the top can go from 1 to 7, and then on the left-hand side, it goes levels 1 through 30-something or 40-something, I think. Obviously, you want to fall somewhere at the very top level, 1 through 8 or something like that. Is hardly no time. It's like a few months. But I'll show you the sentencing guideline. This is something that you could Google and you could pull it up. I was appalled when I was incarcerated as to how many people was sitting around and not having any idea what offense level they were on. Like, how could you not? I was familiar, I guess, because, like I said, I worked in a criminal law firm before as a legal assistant, but the attorney didn't. Like, at some point, it seems like it should have came up. Like, this should have been something that you were spoken to about. You should have been aware of this chart and, like showing it to people. Like, you need to know where you are, because you need to at least know the starting point of negotiation, because everything is negotiable, right? Everything is negotiable. Anything is possible and everything is negotiable. I don't care how bad your situation may seem, chances are it's negotiable. Like, when you first go to court, it is very intimidating. Being in court at the DOJ is so, like, it's cold atmosphere. It's intimidating, and it's even worse if you're coming to court from jail. You want to come to court, hopefully, from outside in a suit, looking very conservative, looking like a tax paying citizen. Hear the judge, go over your charges, and she will say something like for my charge, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, she said it carries a term of up to 20 years. You want to focus on the middle two words, up to. You don't want to focus on that 20 years part. You can hear that and your heart can drop. But it's not, the emphasis is not on that, I promise you. The emphasis is on the up to part, because up to, they don't mention where it starts at. Nobody says from 6 months to 20 years. Nobody says that. No, they say up to 20 years. They just tell you the back end. But I did about 6 months, a little under, about 6 months, yeah. Everybody's case is different. A co-defendant with the exact same charge, she did 4 years. There's a book that will help you understand the guidelines even more. And the book is so helpful to me. It will help you in many ways. It's called Busted by the FEDS. And it's on Amazon, but there's a link. I'm gonna link it below. It's kind of expensive. The book is imperative. I don't care how much it costs. If it was $200, if it was $300, I promise you it's worth it. You're gonna learn so much about the system. And that's good, because when you get this court-appointed attorney, you need to understand that he or she, they're getting paid by the court a fee, right? It's a flat fee. Doesn't matter how much time they spend on your case. I don't know what the fee is. Let's just say it's about $15,000. If it's $15,000, you have to understand they have other cases. They have other people that are paying them actually also. And they have to work their hourly rate into that $15,000. And so therefore you figure they have, I don't know, a certain amount of hours that they can allot to you, which means they're not going to be that accessible. Yeah, when you call, you could probably get them on the phone, but as far as when you actually see your attorney, because over the phone you really won't discuss much because the calls are recorded. But depends on where you are. Some jails, they have it as to where attorney calls are not recorded, but I was someplace where I couldn't get one of those calls. I had to wait for him to come and see me in person in order to have a private conversation. So if that's the case, you have to throw in travel time also there and back. And then his wait time adds up because they have to bring you, somebody has to transport you from the cell to the room that you go see the attorney. And so outside of the actual time he spends with you, it's probably more time, an hour to 2 hours time that it takes him altogether. So you need to be prepared. This book will prepare you for the limited amount of time that you have with the attorney, right? It levels the playing field somewhat, because this way you come to the table with some knowledge, so he doesn't have to spend so much time getting you up to speed, like explaining little things to you. You read this book before you have these meetings with your lawyer, and it gives you the ability to take notes, highlight stuff, write down a list of questions, educated questions, to where you come to the table that much more prepared. And now he's better able to help you, because instead of starting off here, now y'all can start off here, and you could actually accomplish so much more. And truth be told, I really think that I got my own self a drop in my offense level because of the book. I read in the book about 2-point reduction for not having, what was it called? Minor role reduction, that's what it's called. So I had never heard of that. I would never even known about that if I didn't read that book. And maybe he would have told me, about it, but I brought it up to him for him to be able to bring it up to the judge. And I got it. So the book, I'm telling you, is worth it. It's very helpful. And all of this Nobody tells you anything. You're going to be on your own having to figure out a lot of stuff. It's a great starting point. Okay, so before we get into looking for how do you find a lawyer, I just want to say part two, see part two to this video. Part two is going to be where I break down the sentencing guideline, okay? Right now, you want to start off with getting a pen and paper because you're going to want to make a list as you go through this particular site I'm going to show you. So first, the name of the site is called Martindale Hubble. You can get to it just by typing in Martindale. It's been around for a very long time, since 1868. You got your pen and paper available. You want to get that ready. When you get to this site, what you want to do is search for the criteria of the lawyer that you are looking for. So, like I said before, if it's a federal case, you need a federal attorney. So you type in federal. Sorry, I wasn't in the search box. So I did this earlier. This was already in here, so I'll just go with that, New York. So you type in federal, you type in criminal. Those are your keywords. Attorney, and then the city that you have the charge in, not the city where you lived. This can often be two different places. Okay, hit search. Now, you don't want to get a lawyer based on, can you use your mom's neighbor's uncle as your lawyer? You know, a reference from a family or a friend. You can, if that person happens to be a federal criminal attorney. If they're not, then they're not going to be able to help you. They can't be a lawyer that does matrimonial divorces. They can't be a lawyer that prepared your will. They have to be specifically a federal criminal attorney. Okay, so the other thing you want to look at is you don't want to just pick somebody. This person is an associate. That's going to be the lower end of the spectrum of what they charge. This person is a managing partner. You don't want to pick a managing partner. He has, yes, many more years of experience, but he also is going to, because of that level of experience, he's going to charge you a high hourly rate. I don't know, depending on what your case is involving, maybe you feel like you need a partner, but more than likely you probably don't. So let's see, just going to scroll some more. Let's just pick someone and go inside their profile. Managing partner, member. This is a member. We're going to pick Paul. Okay, so this will tell you his address, contact information, here's a phone number. Then we have the biography. Open it to see more. So here you get an idea of how many years of experience. Practice law for more than 30 years, both as a prosecutor in New York City and at the DOJ, and in private practice as a criminal defense attorney. Okay, there's been a lot of debate about whether a former prosecutor can be a good defense attorney. You have to Google that and do that research separately and come to your own conclusion. Some people would like to think that because he was a prosecutor, he may still be friends with other prosecutors and could call in favors, or he knows how the prosecutor thinks, maybe. But other people think that, it's not so easy to switch sides. If you've been trained to be a prosecutor, you are skilled in thinking one particular way, and then to switch over to being a defense attorney, is something different altogether. So you have to do your research on that. So here, this gives you an idea of the percentage. I like this because areas of practice are always listed, but you don't have an idea, right, of how much experience they have in each area. So for this example, he does DWIs, but look at the chart. 10% of his cases is in that area. 10% of his experience and time is spent on DWIs. The majority, 60%, which is what you're here for, is criminal defense. So that's great that that's broken down like that. I like that. There's no reviews. There's generally no reviews on this site. So I would write down this person, Paul, just for a consultation. You're just going to call and ask some questions. Go back. We'll go back now and pick somebody else. Okay, so the next person is a partner. Then you got Peter Schaefer. He's a member. He's a member in the Bronx. We'll click on Peter. You could read his biography, his areas of practice. Federal criminal law comes up first, so he probably spends the majority of his time with cases having to do with federal criminal law. You might want to go to the website. We'll click that. But here on the website, he's obviously a personal injury lawyer. So this is not who you want. So we'll come out of this. We'll leave him. We're back on Martindale now. We'll pick someone else. I'm looking at this one next. Thomas, member at Melanson. We'll pick him, although he's in Kingston, New York. So now we've left the city. So if you're in the city, this lawyer is too far away to get to court. So we'll go to the next one. Daniel Parker. Again, his contact information is at the top. His biography is there. Areas of practice, education and credentials. He got admitted in 1985. Gives you an idea of how many years of experience he has. You can view his website, and then his phone number is here. You can call, add him to your list for a consultation as well. And then what you can also do is look up some of these people in Google and just kind of see if any articles come up about prior cases or prior clients. We're going to pick one and do that with now. So let's see. Here's this guy here, Joey Jackson. Click on him. Let's go to Google and see if we can find him. Well, this is a common name. So what law firm is he at? Oh, so it's his own law firm. He's at Joey Jackson Law. So we'll put that in. First, let's look at his website. So he has a consultation. Call now to schedule a case evaluation. So you would take this number down. These are the areas, practice areas. Let's click here. Criminal defense, federal crime defense is right there at the top. So that's great. He highlights some of the cases here that he's won, had dismissed, had acquittals, another acquittal. And then he seems to have been featured on TV in some of these news stations and TV shows. So let's go Google Joey Jackson Law. So we don't want this one. The first one that comes up is his own website. We was just on that. Then you have a Wikipedia. Then you have Justia. That might be a good outside source. They give you a summary about him. Says he's a nationally recognized criminal defense attorney. Says he has state and federal court experience. Tells you what jurisdictions he's admitted to practice. Only in New York. So his education is there, any awards he's won. Okay, we can leave this page. I'll just try to scroll through Google and see if there's anything that comes up about any cases of his. Oh, he's a legal analyst on CNN as well. Okay, he probably cost an arm and a leg. He has an Instagram. He has a Twitter. I don't see anything about any particular case of his that was in the news. Okay, well, I would just write his name down for a consultation and then just keep on making my list. Oh, look, here's a YouTube video. This goes back further, but it's 2013, but it's 4 minutes long. Maybe you could listen to him and kind of gauge a little bit about what you might feel from that interview he's given there. So yeah, you could just do some background research. Basically, this is not something that you might even be able to accomplish in a day. You know, it's good to speak to a couple, several, 5 even, different attorneys, 7. Just, you want to speak to people, the more, you can start with the questions that I gave, but the more you speak to, the more questions you'll probably start to formulate on your own. And the kind of things they're going to want to know from you is what jurisdiction is the case in, what stage is it in? Like, did you just find out you were indicted? Have you been arraigned already? They might want to ask a couple of other questions just to ascertain what kind of case this is for them. What kind of case situation? How deep are you into the situation? Are you a defendant? How many defendants are in it? So those kind of questions will be helpful to him and you. So now what you want to do is you want to look at the part 2 video, because that's going to tell you about the sentencing guideline for federal judges. And basically they can sentence you below the guideline or above it, but usually they stay within it. And so what I mean by that is, if your sentencing range calls from 6 months to 18 months, they can sentence you for anything in between. So that's why I said a court-appointed attorney is really going to get you kind of like the same thing as a paid attorney, because they have to go according to the guideline. The judge is going to use some of the outside mitigating factors to decide where in the guideline you're going to fall. But basically, she's going to look at the guideline, and it's between 6 months and 18 months. For example, she can land at 10 months. And that's going to happen whether you have a paid lawyer or a court-appointed one. Okay, so now go check out part 2. Okay, that's it for this video. Again, this is Tatum Talk. Click like, click share, please subscribe. If you are not in this situation yourself, then this content may not be for you, but maybe you have a friend, maybe you have a family member who could use this information. Again, when I had this happen to me in 2011, I wasn't prepared. Nobody ever is. But looking online, trying to find information, it was very hard. There wasn't a lot of information out there at the time. And then I didn't deal with the situation until just last year, 2019. And I'm still rebuilding. So I'm better. I'm in a better place now. But my life is still not quite back to being whole. Almost. Not quite. But anyway, if you can share this with someone who needs it, who needs to hear it, then that would be great.